tonight we're going to have Chef Patrice Jefferys, who's going to just share her love for food and just her story. I won't take her thunder. So without further ado, Patrice, if you would.
Thank you so much. Well, good evening, everybody, and thank you so much for joining just to hear about how I actually got started. Um, just a little background. I am a fifth generation cook. I have been cooking since I was 9 years old. I just turned 42 weeks ago, so I think I'm seasoned. Like I said, I'm a fifth generation cook, so great grandmother, grandmother, mother, aunt, and then myself. Pretty much, I used to just sit in the kitchen and observe, asked all the questions, wanted to taste everything. And then I just developed a passion for food myself. I knew that I didn't want to bake because I observed the baking part. That was what my grandmother did and my great grandmother. But with baking, you have to be precise. My thing is real cooks don't measure, so I use the dump method for everything. I'm pretty sure, once you do get in the hang of baking, you can pretty much eyeball it. But baking is not my thing. I can bake, but I prefer to cook. But like I said, I started cooking when I was 9 years old, and then that just developed. I had a twin brother. I have a twin brother. We were latchkey kids, so my mom wasn't at home a lot. So my brother was my guinea pig. So anything that I cooked, regardless of what it was, he always ate it, whether it was good, nasty, crunchy, munchy, or whatever. So the first thing that I learned how to cook was hot dogs and eggs. And I remember my mom scolding me because I think I cooked 2 dozen eggs because I couldn't get them right. And she was like, I know I bought 2 dozen eggs. And I'm like, I only cooked like 2 or 3 of them, but I had thrown all of them in the trash can because they just weren't right. They were nasty. Just going forward, I continued to cook at all the family functions. I would always take dishes. We would have potlucks. I would arrange those at work. And everybody just continued, oh, this is so good. All of my family coming over, I always host holiday dinners, Thanksgiving and Christmas at my house for my entire family. I always tell everybody not to bring anything, and I do all of the cooking and all of the hosting. So fast forward to 2009, I was working in human resources, working part time and attending school full time. And my schedule was Sunday through Thursday. So this was really a hustle for me. And it was the same thing for my grandmother and my mother. I didn't realize at that point that I was going to turn it into what it is right now. So I just continued. I sold plates to all of the local barbershops and hair salons around Winston. Everybody knew Trice. Everybody knew Trice could cook. And that just became overwhelmingly popular on the weekends. I would take pre-orders, and then I would, go. I had to start fixing extras because I would go and it's 15 barbers in the barbershop, every last one of them, are buying plates. I go to the hair salon, same thing. The customers are calling, when can we get food? When can we get food? So I did that for about 2 years and honestly burned myself completely out, because I was doing all the cooking, I was taking all the orders, and I was doing all of the deliveries as well. So then I prayed about it and I said, something has to give. With me, it's all about working smarter and not harder. So that's when I switched over completely to catering. Once I did that, my business, I mean, it completely took off. So I did away with the plates. I still have customers that call me and ask me for plates now, but I don't do too much, don't do too much of that. I was also in 2018. So I was designated as best caterer of the year. And then the next month after that, I was featured in the Winston-Salem Chronicle as community business of the month. So with those two things, several podcasts that I had done, my phone has just been completely ringing off the hook. They say when you ask, you better be ready for it. So I was completely ready. In 2017, just when I switched over to the catering, like I said, I was working in human resources, and I just saw all the different things that were going on in the work environment, and I decided that that was not for me anymore because my business was flourishing outside of that. So I decided to take a step out on faith. I cashed in my 401k and I walked. I have not looked back ever since. In that same company, huge company that I work for, I was able to go back and cater for them. So I double dipped. I cater. I have catered for. I always cater for the mayor's office, for the city council members, Winston-Salem Chronicle. I've catered for Department of Social Services, Baptist Hospital, Forsyth Hospital. And last year in June, it was actually my biggest order. I was selected to cater for Amazon for Juneteenth. That was my biggest order. It was 700 employees. So my business has definitely skyrocketed. I always tell everyone that you need to advertise. Nobody promotes Trice's Eats more than Trice's Eats. If I'm up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and maybe I'm sending out an inspirational quote, or I may be at the Enterprise building cooking food for for whomever. But it's definitely been a blessing. And even through the pandemic, we were still able to overcome the obstacles of the pandemic as well, and still were able to to turn over a profit during those times. Cooking, catering is completely different from cooking. Some people can cook, but to be able to cook in bulk, it's definitely a science to it. I want my food always tastes the same, whether I'm cooking for one or whether I'm cooking for 1,000. So consistency is definitely key. My face is good all over Winston-Salem. Everybody knows Trice. Strangers walk up to me all the time, introduce themselves and then say, "Oh, well, I had some of your food." I always pass out business cards, give a smile, give a smile. And if anyone wants to know, or, anyone that's coming up behind me has questions, I give that information as well. I have people inboxing me all the time saying, well, what are the next steps? What is it that I need to do? I don't mind reaching back, giving giving that information to somebody, because that could be, exactly what they need to give them that push to continue, to continue on their journey. Like I said, it's definitely been a blessing. I've just finished a huge order today, right before I started. But I mean, everybody calls me. We are booking through August, currently, of this year. We do weddings, we do birthday parties, repasses, gender reveals, anything that you can think of, or if you just want to eat good, you can reach out. You can reach out to me for my menus, for anything in regards to food. And I'm always open to suggestions. Definitely appreciate any type of feedback, whether it's positive or negative. And as long as I've been in business, this is going into my 4th year this year. I've only received one negative response from anybody. So, I mean, I definitely try to correct anything. If we make a mistake, or if I make a mistake, we try to go back and correct it, always giving that smile, always giving that great customer service. And like I said, being consistent. And because a lot of my customers are repeat customers. So I appreciate any type of feedback that's given to me. So does anyone have any questions so far?
I am so sorry. Well, first of all, I think your story is amazing because, again, like I said, I'm not one that cooks, I eat. So I understand that when you're cooking for your family versus cooking for the public, it opens up something completely different. But
Definitely.
I'm curious in knowing, have you seen an increase in your confidence and just in life, period, overall, versus
Definitely.
having a job or starting your business?
Definitely more confident. I was confident when I walked out. That's I mean, that took a lot. There were a lot of naysayers. I thought about it for several months and I talked to people before I did it. And the person that I thought was my biggest supporter was like, no, 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 don't leave your job. Because if you do, what are you going to do about health insurance? And it just took me to another. I'm like, health insurance. And I say, well, if I worry about, my health insurance right now, then I'm never going to leave this place. I have health insurance. So health insurance, life insurance, and everything else. So sometimes you won't have a lot of people that will support you, but I've always been, that go-getter, that hustler. My mom instilled that in me. My grandmother did too. And like I said, they did the same thing. My grandmother worked in RJ Reynolds pretty much all of her life. And she sold little pies, little pastries, the bag peanuts, mints, things like. She always had a side hustle. My mom did the same thing. She sold food, she sold plates. My aunt sold food, sold plates, but none of them actually took it to the next level as far as legalized, as far as having a legal business. And that's where I took it a step further. So my mom was definitely an entrepreneur, but it was nothing that was on paper. My grandmother, same thing, but nothing was on paper. I have mine on paper. I have mine on paper, so I'm really happy about that. But it was definitely a boost of confidence.
Imagine so. And I love how you said you took it a step further where
Mhm.
instead of you just making money from it, you say, well, I'm just going to make this an actual thing. And I think that's wonderful. It builds generational wealth. I can imagine
Definitely.
your family and really the community at large is so impressed with what you've done. I'm also curious, and I hope someone else has questions because I can come up with some questions. But have you had people to kind of suggest, hey, why don't you open up a restaurant? Like, how do you stay in your lane and tell people, no, this is where I'm gonna stay?
So some of the things that I have coming up, I try to keep some things to myself. I know that you have to be careful about what you speak. I'm not one, I do not want a restaurant. I will say that. Restaurants, you have tons of overhead, you have to worry about so many other things. And to be honest, me not having a restaurant is what actually helped my business survive the pandemic. I've done my research for years and years regarding restaurants, and it's hit or miss. But like I said, when I stepped out on faith and I prayed about it, and I said, Lord, what are my next steps? And it was catering, and I'm staying in my lane as far as catering. Remember, I told you I don't bake. So if I have a customer that requests, well, I want a chocolate cake or something, like, I partner with other Black owned businesses, and I have I'll order from them and I'll pass their information on to my customer as well. But I have bakers that I work with and other people that treats, I mean, anything. I have other people that I work with. We have a whole network where we refer one another and work with one another to promote all of our businesses. So I look out for everybody.
That's really wonderful because I know a lot of times what, especially as women and women of
Mhm.
color, we
Mhm.
struggle with that competition and where to draw the
Definitely.
line.
There is no competition. I say that every day. I'm my own competition. I'm not competing with anybody. I know that there are other caterers out here, and I know that sometimes my pricing may be more than what the next person is. I don't have a problem saying, well, you can contact such and such, for that. I don't mind doing that. We are busy. I'm very busy. I'm having to turn down orders just because of our schedule. So that's a definite plus. We have two part-time workers. One of them is my son. So I will tell everyone, if you're in business and you have small children, please hire your kids. So tax write-off, your kids are employed, and like I said, and you mentioned generational wealth, and that's actually what I'm trying to do, because growing up, we weren't taught those things. So I'm trying to do something different for my children. I want this to be a family business. My youngest one is the only one that works with me right now, but I mean, he's 11 years old. He'll be 12. He can fry chicken probably better than your grandma. So, but I have him in the kitchen, teaching him the ropes of the business and teaching him entrepreneurship, because in reality, he may have a job to begin with, once he steps out on his own. But I don't want him to have to work for anyone else. I always say when I left the company that I was working for, it was time for me to step out on faith and build my own dream, because the person that I was working for, he was already filthy rich. He's going to continue to be rich whether I'm gone, whether I continue to stay there or not. It was time for me to focus on what I needed to do for myself and for my family.
That's excellent. And I'm sure your son is, I'm sure he'll be one of those ones that take it a step even further. I absolutely love
Exactly.
that. And he
He's
probably
gonna be he's gonna do the books. Like he's my math man. So he gives ideas. Mom, why don't you do this? He gives all types of ideas. He talks about pricing. Like he is on top of a lot of things.
Oh, wow. Excellent. And for him to be so young, man, he's gonna,
Definitely.
by the time he turns 18, he's gonna be a beast. So
Yes,
that's
and see, he's 11. He's been cooking since he was 8, so he started a year younger than myself. I started when I was 9. He started when he was 8. Just bring him in the kitchen, put a chair up to the counter, and let him make all types of messes. And then all of a sudden, it turns into, hey, well, can I cook this myself? He can come in the kitchen now and here at home and whip up a whole meal, and I won't have to stand over him to do it. So it's all about teaching the next generation different things so that they can survive the world, because things are very different now.
absolutely. We do have a question in the chat, and Hazel, it looks like you may have a question too. But the question is, are there any requirements, or are there any requirements with having a home-based cooking business?
Oh, I'm not home based. There are requirements for having a home based cooking business. I know that you can bake out of your home, but as far as cooking, it's actually illegal unless you have a separate kitchen. Now, I am based out of the Enterprise building, the Enterprise Shared Use Kitchen, which is the old Salvation Army Boys and Girls Club. So I'm actually permitted to cook there, but you cannot have a home based catering business or cooking, but you can bake.
That's great.
And
Do
is
you
there-
cook, Miss Hazel?
Yes, I can. I can
Okay.
even bake. I can make homemade biscuits. I was born and raised in West Virginia, and growing up, we had my father. He passed in 1993. He had a garden. We had apples, strawberries, blackberries. We had everything. So
Okay.
Mama, she would be in the kitchen cooking, and I said, Mama, I said, what you doing? She said, well, just sit down and watch me. My other sisters and brothers be outside playing. I used to watch my mother when she would kind of take the dough. Some people don't do it now. They don't like to put their hands in the dough. She would kind of take her dough, she put in the bowl, her flour, put in the bowl. She would take the jug of buttermilk, poured in there with her shortening. They had like the old fashioned shortening back then, because my father, he raised hogs. So Mama used to lard from the hogs. And I watched Mama when she took her hands and made the bread. I can even make pie crust.
Okay,
My
I
pinto
do too.
beans. Yes, my pinto beans, I soak them before, I get ready to cook them. I cook the old fashioned way, like frying chicken and stuff. And I kind of take a little salt water and put in the refrigerator at night when I fry my chicken, because my grandma said that kind of brings the blood from the bone. There's nothing I can cook. When I go home, like you say you don't have family functions and everything. My family always tell me, well, Hazel, you bring the potato salad. They love my potato salad and greens. Yes, I
Your
can cook.
potato salad has to be good if everybody's asking for
Yes,
it.
there's nothing I can't cook. And I don't, like you said, I don't use recipes. I just kind of measure out. For my grandson's birthday, January, he called me from Atlanta. He said, Mama, will you make me a key lime cake? Because I make them all the time. And it's a lot that you have to add to the cake. I make that from scratch.
Okay.
Yeah, yes. I love cooking. I need to hook up with you because I love cooking. And I'm by myself now. My family is in Winston-Salem. They grown, and I don't have anybody to cook for. But I just cook, every so often. But I love cooking. I really do.
Okay, awesome.
Yes, that's
Awesome.
exciting. I'm proud of you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
That's so interesting that you all said, we're talking about cooking and all, because I'm not, like I said, I don't cook as much, but with a 3-year-old, she has a very interesting palate, and she doesn't like eating out and all that. And I find myself enjoying cooking, where I'm just kind of, I can't be on my phone as much, or you're not watching TV or anything. So I'm curious, how has cooking pretty much changed I guess we know it's changed your life, but how has it really been able to help you connect with other people in such a deep way, if at all?
So I say that I show my love through cooking. And I tell everybody that a lot of times, a friend, I don't give away recipes because I don't have recipes. All of it is up here, just like Miss Hazel said. At some point, I may want to write down some recipes, maybe think about a cookbook or something like that. But as far as just connecting with people, like I said, I show my love through food. So when somebody eats my food for the first time, I'll say, well, go ahead and just taste it. And then me seeing their reaction is like, oh my God, will you marry me? Or can you cook for me every day or something? And it just brings joy to my heart, because I really do cook from the heart. To cater, you really do have to love what you are doing. It's a lot of people that are out here, they do cook, and they cook just for profit. And to me, like if you're doing something that you love, the money will come. And that's exactly where, like I said, that's exactly where I'm at right now. I know that I put out a great product. I know that I'm one of a kind. I know that I'm genuine. People know how I really truly am as a person. I really am a loving, giving person. So that just brings it all to the forefront. So I show my love through my food.
I have another question. With your gravies, if you do something like cube steak with gravy or something like that, do you do that from scratch? Or
yes,
you use something else?
Yes,
ma'am. That's the way you do it. You fry that chicken, honey, and you put that chicken aside. You put a little flour over in that oil in your pan.
Yes,
you get a cup of hot water and put it over in it, and let that flour kind of get a little brown and start stirring so it won't be thick. And you want it thick or thin, honey, you got you some smothered fried chicken.
Yes,
I know how to cook.
Everybody loves I make my pot pies from scratch. So I make the dough and everything from scratch, and the flaky crust. The crust is what gets me. But I always serve them with a container of gravy, and my customers call it liquid crack. Because they always ask me, what is it that I put in there? But you were talking about that grease, so let me take it back with you, Miss Hazel. We're gonna talk about this food for a little bit. Okay. I take that grease, that same grease that I fry that chicken in, and if I have some collard greens or some cabbage or something, you take some of that grease and put it over there in them greens.
And then you get a piece of smoked turkey neck and throw over in there.
What did you just say?
Honey, I don't eat beef and pork, but I love me some smoked turkey neck, honey.
And see, I don't eat pork either, so I use the smoked turkey as well.
Right, yeah, right. I don't eat pork and beef. And when I do my pinto beans, I do them in the crock pot if I'm busy, but since I'm not working, they better on the stove because they cook slow. And if I do my pinto beans and black eyed peas, I start them, just kind of start to boil a little bit. And then I sprinkle just a little black pepper and a little like salt. I don't use much salt, but I get that turkey neck and put over in there. When I'm sleeping at night, I can smell those beans cooking.
That's your flavor.
Something smelling good with that turkey neck. Ooh,
yes, ma'am, that's your flavor right there. I just fixed some green beans not too long ago, and just about an hour ago, and I threw that smoked turkey in there. That
that gives it the flavor. Yes.
That is so amazing. And it's funny because I know, especially for Black and Brown communities, we find our legacy through our recipes and through food
Mhm.
and things like that. And I've always noticed that's the way to link the generation. So
Definitely, definitely.
I've
Yes.
Right,
always enjoyed that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
right,
exactly.
right. I even know how to make rice puddings. There's nothing much I can't cook, but I don't cook anymore because my children are grown. Yeah, my grandmother showed
Mhm.
us how to make rice pudding. I can make peach cobblers and everything from scratch. I
Now,
roll out
peach
my dough.
cobbler, I do
Yes,
make my peach cobbler from scratch as well. That's
right,
one of my signature desserts that everybody loves.
right.
That's
I've
one of
had
my
that.
desserts that I definitely can make. Now I will measure for the peach cobbler because my peach
Yeah,
cobbler
I
is
don't measure. I just put my peaches on and kind of let them come to a little boil, and I roll out my dough. And I know how much sugar to put in that dough and then in that peaches, and put my little spices, cinnamon, and everything,
Mhm.
and flop that dough over top of them peaches, and kind of when I take it out and get my brush and kind of swish a little butter over. Oh, honey, they'd be so good.
And
I can cook. I'm the only sister that can cook in my family. Yeah. Everybody else is out playing with baby dolls and making playhouses in West Virginia. I was sitting right there with mama. Yeah.
Cooking.
I will say for your peach cobbler, so I'm one of those where I don't impress easy. So when I got my little container, I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna taste this." I stopped and I
Mhm.
laughed. I don't even
You
know if
ate the whole thing, didn't you?
yeah,
Yes.
it
Yes.
was like I inhaled it. So I don't know what was going on in that bowl, but it was gone. It was
I'm glad you
incredible.
enjoyed
So
it.
Yes.
Thank
I
you.
can definitely have a gift. Meredith, you have a question. Are you able to unmute yourself? There you
Yeah,
are.
can you see me?
Yeah.
Yes, hello.
Hello. I wanted to ask, I know you had said earlier about your next in the future, next project would be a cookbook.
Mm-hmm.
And I have lots and lots of cookbooks. And so, I'm like, okay, if this person wrote a cookbook, let me just follow the recipe. If they wrote a cookbook, then it must be good. So I follow the recipe. A lot of times it's not good. And I find myself having to if I make it again, I have to add this or take out that or so and you're saying, if you got repeat business like you have and your business is booming, your food has got to be good.
It
So
is.
how I guess I don't really know how to frame the question, but if you do a cookbook, how do since you don't measure, how are you going to be able to make the cookbook, the recipes that you're writing down so that when us as the consumer buys the book, that it tastes like what, we would be used to having if we had gotten something from you as a catered plate. How do you do that? Where's the disconnect in the recipe and then when people write it down or from when they cooked it? Where
Mhm. So that is going to be a task for me because everything is up here. But I don't know how anyone writes a cookbook. I don't know if they're given their exact recipes, and that may be something that's wrong. So I can give somebody I'll give somebody a recipe all day, but I won't give my specific recipe, or I can follow a recipe, but I always make it my own. So I can read it all day, but I know that I'm going to put some extra something in there to make it, to make it mine. So that will be a task for me to sit down and actually write down measurements because I don't do that. And like I said, the cookbook is gonna be further down the line, but that's definitely something for me to think about. But I do think that when people do write cookbooks, especially these famous people that are writing them, I do not think that that is anyone's specific recipe that they are using step by step. It may just be that they're giving you, something, a blank slate of something, just writing it down. Well, these are the basic ingredients, but just with me cooking, I'm going to always make it my own.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Question. It's kind of two parts. So, what would you say your favorite dish of yours is?
Mm. Okay, so I am off of the beef and pork. So I would say my lemon and dill buttered salmon. Like I'm a seafood junkie. So my lemon and herb buttered salmon, asparagus, and rice. That would be my favorite dish. My top seller for my customers, though, is my mac and cheese. It's a signature side dish. My fried chicken and my seasoned green beans. Those are always my top sellers. I have sold a ton of everything off of my menu, but those three dishes are ones, and my peach cobbler, those are the ones that I can't steer away from. Somebody is always ordering that meal specifically. So you may be tired of urban garlic roasted chicken, but my customers are not.
Yeah, we go with what sells, right?
Yes.
And if you could, and I guess I can open this up to everyone, but if you could use one dish as an example or describing who you are or something about your life, what would you say that dish is?
I think that would be my mac and cheese. So it took me forever to perfect my menu. Like I said, I'm a fifth generation cook, so everybody in my family has their own version of mac and cheese. And it took me until I was almost 30 to actually get my mac and cheese recipe down pat, because I was trying to fix it like my grandma. And then I was trying to fix it like my mom. And then I was trying to fix it like my aunt. And I could never get it right. So I would always ask my aunt, well, can you just fix me a pan of mac and cheese? And then one day, she was like, you know what? I'm tired of making mac and cheese. You need to learn how to make it yourself. I was cooking everything else but mac and cheese because I didn't want to mess it up. So I started fiddling with it. I started playing with it. And then when I won Best Caterer of the Year, that mac and cheese was right there. So I knew I had something.
That is so sweet. I would say for me, it would be barbecue chicken. And I say that
Okay.
because it's the barbecue part where I kind of cheat a little bit. I use bottled barbecue sauce, but add some things to it to make it a little more tangy and all of that. So one day I will jump out there and try
It's
something.
so easy to make barbecue
Listen,
sauce.
I tell you, I'm basic. Like, maybe we need to do a cooking class or something.
So
Um,
I want that's something else that I want to tap into as well. I have been asked about offering cooking classes as well. Yes. I think you're muted, Brittany.
there we are. We're still
Okay.
figuring it out. But Hazel and Meredith, what would you say? What dish would describe your life or who you are?
Well, for me, I cook, but I mean, if I didn't have to cook, I wouldn't. I like to bake because I like sweets. So, but for me, I would say probably I call it a kitchen sink lasagna, and that's because I put just about everything that I can think of in it. And I've taken it like to work for potlucks and stuff like that. And I've had people, they're like, oh, I don't like this and I don't like that, or I don't like lasagna, or I don't eat this, or I'm like, just try it. If you
Mm-hmm.
try it, then, like I do my kids, just taste it. You're not going to tell me that you don't like it if you've never had it. So, now these are adults, these are adults. Get them to taste it. They're like, oh my gosh, that is so good. I would have never thought that I would have, like, okay, well, that's why you have to taste it. So for me, I like stuff. I like dump pots, plates,
Okay.
just stuff that you
Okay.
just kind of throw in the pot and mix it up. That's always been my thing, because to me it's easy, but you still get a really good hearty meal out of it that you can, spread out maybe over, of course through a lot of people, but maybe for, a couple of eats out of it. You can eat it for lunch tomorrow, or, whatever. It's still some food
Mhm.
left over. So that's me. I'm about frugal because I can't be spending $200-300 at the grocery store every week because of some food. So
When you have three greedy boys, I have 123, 118, and 111. Those one pot meals definitely do come in handy, especially with not my 23-year-old, but my 18-year-old and my 11-year-old still at home. It's like, okay, they are eating me out of house and home. So one of those meals that we do as well is the I call it beefaroni. Some other people call it goulash. I don't eat it because I don't eat beef, but my kids do. And it's just a one pot dump method, macaroni noodles, hamburger, or you can use ground turkey or ground chicken. You put your onions, mushrooms, garlic, bell pepper, your spaghetti sauce, top it off with cheese, and you got a big pot meal that
Mhm.
doesn't cost you that much, and they can scoop and eat, forever. I'll throw a little sour cream in there, give it a little tang, and they are just as happy as they can be scooping out that pot for breakfast, lunch, and dinner until that pot is gone. So I understand what you're talking about. I do have to, save in the grocery store as well, because these kids, they can eat.
Yes. Mhm.
What about you, Miss Griffin? What I guess dish would you say best describes you or your life?
I would say baked chicken. I love veggies. I eat veggies every day. Some
Mhm.
kind of veggies. I love fruit. Grilled chicken. I love cabbage. I love broccoli. I don't buy the frozen broccoli. I buy the fresh broccoli. I wash it very good, cut it off, and I don't like my veggies like soft and mushy. I like crisp
Supposed to be
broccoli.
crisp.
So I do my broccoli. I don't use any kind of oil or anything, but just put like a little olive oil in it, and I just a pinch of sugar so I have a little sweet taste. But when I do my baked spaghetti, I love baked spaghetti, and I don't eat pork and beef like you. So what I do, I get my ground turkey and I boil my noodles, and I make sure my noodles are not real mush and soggy because I put it in the oven and bake it. And then I just make my sauce, and I use like the little diced tomatoes, use my jar of sauce. I use a little bit of sugar and a little black pepper. I don't use any salt because the salt is in the sauce. And I use mushrooms. So as I take my noodles out, I just strain them in my colagen in my sink. Then while the noodles is kind of cooling a little bit, setting over to the side, I take my big frying pan and I make my sauce. Then I get my big bowl. I mix all that up together and put it in my long Pyrex dish. And I buy the bags of mozzarella and mild cheddar cheese. And I just sprinkle both of those cheese over top of my baked spaghetti, put you in the oven. Honey, when you pull it out, that cheese, you get ready for dip your fork in it. That cheese is just hanging, just dripping. I love baked spaghetti. Well, my doctor told me about like cholesterol and diabetes and everything. So I don't buy the white pasta. I buy the whole grain pasta, just like I buy the brown bread. And like for dinner, I even fix me the brown rice. I try not to stay away from this white pasta because of the carbs. Yeah. But I love chicken. I eat chicken all the time because I don't eat any pork or beef. Chicken, and I don't cook fish in my house. So I use fish sticks. I go out to buy chicken, and like the turkey, I go over Walmart and get the sliced deli turkey because she told me about processed turkey because I had breast cancer in July of 2012. And she said, anytime you had any kind of cancer, watch your processed meat because it brings on cancer enzymes. So I got away from the red meat. And, I really, when I go to the grocery store, I see like neck bones or either beef or either something like that, a stewed beef. It don't bother me anymore because it's something that you can get away from. I thought I would never get away from red meat, but I did. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And I thought about too, a lot of times when we're watching what we think a chef is or what a professional cook is, we think about cordon bleu and all of these things, but
Mhm.
I love to see people that come down from generations of cooking because it lets me know that they know what they're doing for real and they have people that can vouch for their cooking. And for me, that's just incredible. So, Trice, I think what you have done with what you have is incredible. And I could imagine we might just see you on Food Network or something. Not too long from now. I could really see that because you're so personal. And I
Thank
just
you, thank
that
you.
piece cobbler alone, I could just Lord.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Does anyone else have any questions or anything? No? Well, I want to thank everyone again for joining us this evening, and to the ones that will see this afterwards. Of course, definitely Google Tracy's Eats. You will not be disappointed. And if you haven't had it, you probably did and didn't know it was her. But I'm really grateful to hear that you are taking the steps to just make some waves in your family legacy, even with your son, what he's doing even before he's 12, what he's doing in the kitchen. So that's really exciting. But if there are no other questions, I will leave you to the rest of your evening. Thank you so much for being here tonight.